live.
Fantastic. So hopefully everyone can hear us okay and see us okay. Good morning to everyone from the UK, or for good evening for everyone in Australasia. It's amazing to be here. This is the Judo webinar in collaboration with Education Perfect, or EP, and we have the lovely Philippa Kruger with us today. We're going to have an amazing time looking through EP and all the things that you can do with it. You'll see on the screen, you've got a couple of polls which have been launched. So if I could ask everyone to tell us, one, where you're from, where you are in the world, because we're presuming that lots of people joining us today are from the Southern Hemisphere. We had the Northern Hemisphere friendly time yesterday, although even then, some people from New Zealand joined us then as well, which is amazing. So if we would love to know which part of the world you're from, and also which languages you are currently teaching, just so that we can get a feel for the sorts of languages which are being taught by the people in the session right now. You've also got the Q&A module. You'll see at the bottom of the screen those people new to this format. I've not used this format before. Yesterday was the first time I'd done anything live with the format, which was great fun. And you'll see there's the Q&A module. So if you click on that, you can then ask us any question during the session. We have the lovely Dia as well with us from Education Perfect, who will be answering all the technical questions, and I will try my best to answer the ones that I can answer as well. But essentially, we'll have some questions at the end. We won't have lots of interruptions during the session because Philippa will have a lot of content to cover during the time with us. We'll be running for about 45 minutes to an hour. Normally about 45 minutes, 50 minutes of presentation, plus some time for Q&A at the end. So we'll do some Q&A at the end with Philippa, so that's fine. But we won't be doing constant interruptions at all. But feel free to ask any question you would like at any point during the session. And if Dia hasn't answered them there and then, we'll sort those questions out at the end. So you're very, very welcome, everyone. And without further ado, I will pass over now to Philippa to kick us off. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Joe. And thank you everyone for being here. It's absolutely wonderful to have you all with us and to have teachers from so many countries around the world. I think in our poll, I'll just flick back to the slide where it showed the results of the poll of where you're from. So you can hopefully see that in front of you. So it's really amazing to have such a mix of nationalities with us, and we really appreciate you giving up your time to come and learn more about EP. So just before we sort of launch into things, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Philippa, and I'm the head of languages here at EP. Before joining the EP team, I was a French teacher at various schools around New Zealand. As you can probably tell, I'm from New Zealand. I've got a New Zealand accent. I'm based in Dunedin in the South Island at our EP HQ. And I'm also mum of 3 small girls, so I can relate to those of you out there with children and who are juggling remote learning and teaching and trying to work from home and all that juggle. I know it's really stressful, and even now my children are not in lockdown. Still, life is full on when you've got kids, so I can relate to you. And I hope that the tools that we're going to show you tonight can be really helpful and time-saving and really help your language students. So I know that we're also going to have a lot of, we've got some teachers who've got a lot of experience with EP, some that don't. So we're going to try and cover things that are going to hopefully be useful for everyone. And as Joe said, please do feel free to ask questions in the Q&A. And Dia, who Joe mentioned, is online with us, and many of you who are international in various parts of the Northern Hemisphere, you will probably have come across Dia before, and also in Western Australia. Dia is one of our amazing teacher consultants, and she's also a languages teacher by trade, so it's wonderful to have her online. And finally, a big thank you to Joe as well for hosting the webinar and reaching out to us to do this, because it's a really wonderful opportunity. So before I get started, I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping things. So first of all, you can move the windows around on the screen in front of you as much as you wish. There are links in the bio section on the left-hand side of the screen if you want to get in touch with either myself or Joe following the webinar or during. In the resource list, you'll also find links links to our EP site, our help centre with loads of good articles, and a link to our webinar page where you should find all of our upcoming webinars. We've also popped in there a link to our EP Languages Facebook group, which is a group with teachers from around the world, where we sort of post languages updates, and we have some great communications in there about languages in general and stuff on EP, and it's just a really great community, and we'd love to have you join that if you haven't done so already. I've also popped in the resource list a link to some of our privacy information. Joe mentioned that that's for a lot of UK teachers and other teachers internationally, that privacy can be an issue with online platforms. So I'd encourage you, if you've got questions about anything to do with the privacy policy, check out that link, and there's also an email address on there for asking questions about privacy things, so feel free to send any emails to that email address listed. You'll also see on your screen a Twitter widget. So it'll be great if you want to tweet during the webinar, and it should automatically come up with hashtag EP for Learning and hashtag Joe Dale, I believe. But if it doesn't, just you can add in the hashtag EP for Learning, which is our EP hashtag, and Joe Dale as well, and that would be awesome just to share with others what you're learning in the session. There's, as Joe mentioned, and as I've mentioned already, we've got the Q&A area for asking questions, and I can see a lot of you have discovered that already. And I can see there's a question in there already about recordings. You will get a recording of the session, so that will be sent out 24 hours following the event. So you'll get an email about this time tomorrow, and you'll be able to access a recording. You can also actually access the recording before that, I think, by clicking on the registration link again. So, and you can also fill out the share this webinar or send this webinar box, and that will allow you to share the link to colleagues if you think they'll find it useful, and they'll be able to access the webinar as well. You can also download a certificate. There's a certificate icon on your screen, and this will allow you to download a certificate to recognise your attendance in the webinar today. So I think that's all of the housekeeping. So we're going to launch into it now. So I'm just going to sort of give a bit of an overview of what we're going to cover. So we're going to talk about, what is EP Languages. I'm going to give an overview of our student resources and an overview of our teacher resources. Then we're going to look at how to set a task and track student progress, how to give feedback on students' written and spoken work, and some of the EP assessment capabilities. We're not going to go into a lot of depth about the assessment because that's a whole webinar in itself, but we will be hopefully running some follow-up webinars with Joe at a later date, so look out for those, and one of those will be looking at how you can run assessments through EP. We're then going to talk about how you can use EP Languages in a traditional classroom setting, how you can use EP Languages in a blended learning environment, as I'm aware that there's many countries around the world who are going to sort of be moving to that blended learning model where you might have some online learning happening from home and some in the classroom environment to kind of limit the numbers of people at school, and also how EP Languages can be used when all students are learning remotely. So we're going to look at a few different strategies there. And I'm aware, I think in New Zealand, just in the last week, we've been made aware that, we're just it's very uncertain what's happening with COVID in the world. We don't know what's around the corner. So I think just having a tool that sort of can be used seamlessly between these different learning environments is really useful, and just looking at some strategies to help with that will be really useful. So sorry, I've just heard that the sound is not great. So I'm just going to hopefully I'll slow down a bit and just make sure my microphone's plugged in okay, and hopefully that will help. Sorry about that. So then finally we'll just talk about how to get set up if you're not already set up for EP, and then talk about briefly some of our EP Languages events and answer any questions you might have. If you don't have an EP account, I'm going to put up a link where you can click to register for an EP account. Now, all teacher accounts are free, so you can set up a teacher account for free forever, so there's never a charge for our teacher accounts, and you can do so by clicking on this link at any time during the webinar or following the session, and that will be set up for you hopefully within the next 12 hours, if not 24 hours, but I would imagine in the next couple of hours, hopefully. So yeah, just click on that link if you do need an account. And we'll talk a bit at the end about how you can set up student accounts. So I'm going to launch into screen share mode and we'll get started. And I'm going to leave that link for access up while I'm in screen share mode. So hopefully that's going to work okay. So hopefully now you can see my EP control panel screen. So, and I'm going to turn off my video now just so it doesn't sort of slow down anyone's internet connection with having video and screen share. So when you log into EP, if you haven't used it before, you arrive at what we call the control panel. And this is like our home page. This is where you can find all of the different parts of the platform. So I'm going to start out by talking about what we have in the content library. And this is where you can both find our existing content and also create your own content. And we do have some really awesome new content creation tools called EP Studio. And I'm not actually going to talk much about those tonight. And once again, that's going to be a follow-up for another webinar with Joe. And we actually run weekly webinars on EP Studio anyway, so feel free to join one of those if you'd like to. But that's also found, the EP Studio side of the platform is found in the content library too. Tonight we're going to focus on our existing content that's there. And just to kind of give you the rundown, we develop content in a number of different languages. So we're currently developing content in French, German, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, Arabic, Italian, Indonesian, and Te Reo Māori. I don't think I've missed any off there. But if you are, and EAL, sorry, we've got EAL content as well. But if you're a teacher of a different language that I haven't listed, what the things that you'll see in the session are all the kinds of activities you can actually create with EP Studio. So all of the kinds of activities I'm going to show you are able to be created with our EP Studio tools. And when we get to the speaking side of the platform, the speaking questions are actually the easiest to create. And I think for me as a language teacher myself, they're some of my favorite things that we have available in the platform, my favorite part of the existing content, but also my favorite content to make. So it is really easy to create content as well, either if you're a teacher of languages that we don't offer, or if you want to just add to our existing content. So what we have when we're in this content library area, you can see we've got the list of subjects down the side, and you can see we don't just have languages, we've got a number of other, sorry, I'm getting my words tangled here, a number of other subjects available. So feel free to, pass on to your other departments at your school. If you want to select a language, you can just click on the pin button there and it will bring it up to the top. So if I click on the pin, it will send Japanese to the top as well. And then if you click on the language, it will come up with the content for that particular language. Now, we'd really like to sort of draw people's attention to what we have here in what we call our featured part of the content library. And this is content that we're actively developing. It's content where that's our kind of prime content that we'd really love teachers to be using as a kind of first stop and a first place to be looking for our lessons. So we have our own course that we've created from scratch pretty much, which is designed to be a course for everyone around the world learning languages, taking into account all different curriculum prescriptions. And we have 4 different levels. So we have Getting Started, which is aimed at sort of mid to late primary or early secondary. We have Beginner, which is early secondary, Intermediate, which is middle secondary, and Advanced, which is senior secondary. And you can see for teachers who kind of understand the Common European Framework or who are familiar with it and use it, we've aligned our levels roughly to pre-A1, A1, A2, and B1. That's sort of a very rough alignment there to give an idea of the level. Then within each of these levels, we have what we call topic-based units. So I'm just, sorry, there's a question come up which I'll just address. So if you make your own content, does this become part of the existing content for everyone, or would this only be accessible to the person who made it? So when you make your own content, it is private, but you can choose to share it publicly if you want to, so it becomes searchable. So within each of our levels, we have what we call topic-based units. And so you can see you can go into a unit, and within a particular unit, we have several different folders. So you can see we've got course material, vocabulary glossary, and an assessment folder. Within the course material, we have an introduction lesson. So this gives an overview of the vocab that students will need to know to complete the unit. So it's got all the language they'll need, and then it's broken down with some sort of multi-choice questions that sort of reinforcing those learning slides that they've gone through. Then it's got some more slides and then some more questions, and it's just really a warm-up, an introduction to the key vocab they need to know for the unit. Then we have a vocabulary practice section, which is just lots of questions practicing vocab in context, more sentence level than individual word level, and also sort of some drag and drop activities practicing that vocab in sentences as well. We then have listening comprehension lessons, and these are available throughout the different levels. And I'll show, this is a beginner unit I'm showing at the moment, but we'll have a look at an advanced level unit shortly. And so the way the listening works is we have a series of listening texts, and they're designed to be scaffolded, so they start out with more simple text and progress through to more complex texts, and the activities that go with them are scaffolded as well. So you can see it starts with a simple sort of recognition, drag and drop activities, then fill in the gaps, and then multi-choice questions, and we also have some long answer questions where the students have got to write a sentence in the target a sentence either in English or the target language. At beginner level at the stage it's all in English, but once we get to intermediate and advanced we have the option of immersion where questions and answers are in the target language. So the listening comprehension, I go back into there, they're all written by our team of instructional designers who are all native speakers of the language they work with. And so it's all original content. It's not based on a textbook. Students can work through these at their own pace. They can listen to them as many times as they like and choose to slow it down with the snail button there. So it's great for differentiation and having students work through at their own pace. If we come out of there, we then have reading comprehension, and this is once again a series of reading texts, and we aim to cover a variety of different text types here. So we have comics, cartoons, articles, letters, postcards, and as the levels progress you'll see more variety of text types as we go through. And once again the activities that go alongside these are scaffolded as well, so it starts out with simple recognition and multi-choice, and then we have sort of long answer questions as well. So that is the reading comprehension. Then we have writing units. Now, we're really excited to just be, actually, these are very new. They're hot off the press. We haven't actually advertised them yet. So they're very, very recent. So these writing units, and these are only available at beginner level at the moment, but we're going to be rolling them out across the levels hopefully later this year and the start of next year. So they start out with what we call writing patterns, which show a variety of different writing patterns for a particular unit. So students can really have assistance with creating sentences. So it's really well scaffolded. And then it's followed by a whole variety of different scaffolded activities. So these start out with some drag and drop, just choosing the correct word to go in a gap, then filling in the missing word, and then translation of sentences where they have the sentence patterns to help support their translation of sentences. Then we have some where they've got to finish a sentence, so they've got a sentence starter and they have to finish it, once again with the sentence patterns to help them. And then we have some more open-ended questions where they've got to describe an image, for example, answer a question in the target language, translate a short passage, use words given to create a sentence or a wee dialogue, and then some free production tasks which aim to include a sort of variety of text types that the students have got to write using the language from the unit. So there's a lot of new activities there in our writing unit. So do check those out if you've been using EP and you're looking for something new. These writing lessons are hot off the press, and they're yet, but we're also working on them in Chinese and German currently as well. So so we are rolling those out across the languages. And as I said, just at beginner at the moment, but you'll see them coming in other levels too later in the year. We then have our speaking lessons. Now, I think I said before, these are probably my favourite part of the content that we offer. Actually, I'm pretty excited about the writing right now as well because it's new, and I get quite excited about the listening too. Actually, I love it all, but the speaking is particularly cool, and I'm going to show you this from the student zone. So I'm going to, and you can see to see something in the student zone, the area I'm in at the moment is the teacher zone, but to see what the students see, which can be quite useful to see their perspective, you just click on this More button and click on Try in Student Zone, and it will open up a new tab, and I'm just going to click French there, and you can see it starts out with some pronunciation questions, so the students can listen to the words and preview the words, and they can listen there. And when they've done that, they press continue, they do a microphone check, and then the word comes up that they want to be tested on. Then they press and hold spacebar to speak and record themselves, so une sœur. So then they can compare. I'm not sure if you can hear my sound through the computer, but so you can they can compare their pronunciation to the model answer pronunciation, and they can actually replay those sounds as many times as they like, and they can re-record as many times as they like. So it's a great way for drilling pronunciation. We then have continued work on pronunciation, and we have like sentence level pronunciation, where they've got a sentence or a couple of sentences depending on the level that they once again record, and they can listen and play back and compare it to the model answer. Then we have the section we call Answer the Question, where students listen to a question in the target language and record their answer. And so that's sort of great for practicing conversational language. Obviously, it's not the same as having a conversation in real life, but it's great for preparing students for conversation and really working on their confidence and preparing them for conversations. And these are all of these speaking activities are particularly useful for if you've got students in a remote learning situation and you're unsure how to get them to practice speaking. All of these will work really, really well in that remote learning situation. And what's really awesome as well about these is you can listen to what the students have recorded and you can give feedback. So it's a fantastic way to track what the students have, how their speaking is going. Likewise with the writing that I showed you before, you can track what the students have written and give feedback, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. I've just seen a few questions about the writing and the speaking, which I'll just address, and I'm sure Dia will go through and answer them too, but I'll just address them to the whole audience because they are quite interesting questions. So first of all, this first one is for EAL. Is there writing for EAL? There certainly is. It's in a slightly different format to what you've seen for French or for our other languages, but there's definitely lots of writing practice for EAL as well, and I'll jump into that and show you shortly. And do we have the speaking activities available in Chinese? Absolutely, we do. So all of what I'm showing you in French is available across French, German, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, Italian, and Arabic, and actually in Te Reo Māori as well. We've got Te Reo Winterburn, who's just started working with us, and he's been rolling these similar kinds of speaking questions out for Māori as well. So there's a lot of new Māori content coming out all the time, so really exciting. So continuing on with the speaking, we've got some there where you've got to ask a question. So you listen to an answer and then you record yourself asking a question that might generate that answer. And there's a series of those. And then we've got monologues and dialogues where the students have either got to record themselves talking about a part of the topic or record a conversation with a friend. And obviously that's the only one that doesn't work so well in remote learning, but the rest of them work perfectly for remote learning situations. So that's the speaking. We then have grammar lessons. So we've sort of got hand-picked grammar lessons to go alongside each of the topics. So they start out with an explanation of the grammar point, and then there's a lot of different scaffolded activities to practice, and there's a lot of repetition with the grammar lessons, and a lot of drilling of the grammar as well. So that's available. And we also have an Extra for Experts task, which requires students to complete a task that's sort of using the language from the unit, but in a sort of different way to what they have been doing. It's usually a creative task where they have to create a product like a poster or a video or a recording and upload it. So that's the overview of what a unit looks like. So that was a beginner level unit that I showed you. And what I'll do is sort of jump into an advanced level so you can see the difference in what that looks like. So if I go into an advanced, I might choose a different language to show you for advanced. So we might look at Japanese, for example, and go to advanced. And then let's have a look. So if we go to this last one, groups and society. So this was a new unit that came out last year. And you can see there's a lot of background information on the slides. There's some vocab as well. And then there's lots of like sort of infographics and visuals as well. The Japanese lessons in particular have got a lot of visuals in them, and we are working on adding in the visuals into other languages as well, and that's one of our projects for the second part of the year. So this is a Japanese advanced level introduction. So you can see there's some different types of activities there. It's really some really beautiful lessons. And then the reading comprehension, obviously the texts go into a lot more depth. And we have different types of text types. So you can see there's a Facebook post. We've got sort of articles. So this just gives you a bit of an overview of what advanced level reading. Got some nice visual text there, and also sort of more complex questions as well. So summarize the contents of the article, identify the audience, identify the purpose, those kind of questions as well. So that's the advanced level, what they look like. And obviously the listening is there too, but it's longer and more complex texts. We also, across our main languages, offer a current event. So I'll jump into another language now and show you our current events. Let's jump into German. We offer a current events unit that comes out once a term. Now this is based on Northern Hemisphere terms. Southern Hemisphere terms, so it's based on the Australia and New Zealand terms, however, still equally relevant for Northern Hemisphere. So you can see in the folder for each year, we've got different topics that have come up. So for term 2 across languages, we did one on COVID-19. So you can see what that looks like. And there's just some background information and some response tasks. Then in other current events units, we have listening and reading text as well as the background information. So it just depends on the topic, and this varies across all the different languages. It just really depends on what's sort of happening in the countries where the language is spoken. So these are suitable for advanced level students, so they're designed for that higher level students. Another exciting content project that we have, and this is available for French and German, but very exciting to announce that we're actually in the process of creating it for Italian and Spanish and Japanese and Chinese and Te Reo Māori, is our video library. So we did this as a trial run last year for French and German, so I can show you what it looks like in these languages. And what we have is a whole series of videos where we've got sort of role play style videos. The first one is ordering in a restaurant, for example. I'm not sure if you can hear the sound, but I'll play it for a couple of seconds.
Guten Tag. Haben Sie einen Tisch für eine Person?
So the students watch the videos and then they complete the activities that go with them. So there's a whole variety of activities. There's fill in the gaps, drag and drop, fill in the gaps, multi-choice questions, long answer questions, personal response questions, recording your answer questions, and also making your own video. And I can see the question that's come up there, what year levels are the videos aimed at? That's a really good question. They're aimed at to be usable across a whole lot of different levels, because we wanted to, obviously it's quite it was quite a big project for us to make these videos, so we wanted them to be as accessible for everyone as possible. So we have designed them so that you can use them across multi-levels. So you can see the activities there. So that, for example, the drag and drop the missing words and the fill in the missing words and the multi-choice questions could be used with quite a low-level class, sort of, whereas the longer answer and the more extended response questions could be used with a higher level class. We also have the option of the videos with subtitles in the target language and without subtitles in the target language. So likewise, you could set for a lower level class, you could set the videos with subtitles, and for a higher level class, you could set without subtitles. So we've tried to design them to be multi-level appropriate. And I can see there the question has come out, when will the Italian ones be due? And this is the same answer for all of those other languages I listed where they're coming. We're just in the process of editing them at the moment, and our instructional designers, I'm happy to say, began work on the lessons yesterday, so they shouldn't be too long. It should be hopefully by sort of the end of September at the latest. So yeah, really excited to get those out in different languages. And I've seen there, will we do videos for Arabic? I do hope so. So we're still, because we started our Arabic content development a little bit after the other languages, we're still sort of working on our core content. So at the moment for Arabic, we have getting started beginner, and we've just about finished intermediate. So we're still working on some advanced level content for Arabic, and then I hope we'll be doing some videos for Arabic as well. So there's lots happening in our languages content designing hub, lots of projects going on. So that's our video library. The other thing, I'm just aware of the time, and I'm sorry, I know I'm talking very fast, so I'll try and slow down a little bit. The other thing I wanted to show you briefly was our teacher resources. So we do have, in most of our main languages folders, we've got a teacher guide. So you'll see at the top there the folder that says Teachers Start Here. And this has got a navigating EP German or French or Chinese section where it's got a video on how to navigate the content library, and also a content map for that language. So it just gives an overview of what topics are available at each level and what grammar points come up in those topics. Then for each of the levels, we also have resources available. So you can see here, Teacher Resources Beginner. We've got the listening transcripts available, and these are a really useful resource. And a lot of teachers, once they discover these, find them really useful. You can use them just as a reference to see what's in the listening text, but you can also use them as class activities. For example, reading out loud in partners, cutting them up and getting them students to put them back into order. Lots of different things you can do with those listening texts, apart from obviously just have them as a reference. But we also have unit outlines where it gives an overview of the units and what's in them, with the learning outcomes, the topics of the text, and so forth. And we have a vocabulary glossary for beginner and intermediate level as well, which you can download, and it's got a full list of all the vocab covered at that unit. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is our vocabulary list that we have within the platform. And so we do also have an extensive library of vocabulary lists, and we have these that go alongside our units. You can see there's a vocab glossary here, which is so you can actually assign vocab lists to students as well as the smart lessons that I've been showing you. And this is actually how EP, how Language Perfect, which we were before, started out, was with vocab lists. So this is, some people know our product as just a vocab learning platform. However, I always start by showing people all of the other lessons that we have available, just so everyone's aware of the full extent that we do have all this other content too. So the vocab's still there, and it is a really useful tool for learning vocab, and students can learn vocab in all sorts of different modes as well. So a great tool for drilling the vocab. So I think that's sort of the main things in the content library I was going to talk to you about. So we've covered the different levels, we've covered the current events, we've covered the video library. The other thing I sort of wanted to draw your attention to is we do, for some languages, and it depends a bit from language to language and from geographic region to geographic region. But if you can see here in French, we have different templates in our content library set up for different countries and different places around the world. So I'm on an international template here. So you can see I have I've got an IGCSE folder for French and an IB folder. So depending on where you are in the world, you'll find different folders that are relevant to your area. So for example, if you're in Victoria, we've got a VCE folder. If you're in New South Wales, we've got an HSC folder. If you're in New Zealand, you'll find an NCEA folder. And internationally, you should find IGCSE and IB and various other folders depending on the language. But it is really important, if you haven't got an account set up, that when you do get that set up, you have a conversation with someone in our team and make sure we set you up on the correct template, because that will make sure you get the correct content for your needs, basically. So I'm going to move in now to look at how you can set any of our content as a task. And we do recommend that you use our task function. So what the task function does is that it makes it really easy for students to find what you want them to work on, and it also makes it really easy for you to track. So to set a task, all you need to do is, there's a couple of ways you can do it. Either you can do it through the content library, and you can see the lesson you want to, say you're looking at this unit on describing people, you've had a look at the lesson, and you think, yes, this is what I want my students to do, so I'm going to click on Assign. And that comes up with what we call our task manager. And here you can pick who you want to assign the task to. So I'm going to click Year 7 French there. Over on the right-hand side, you can click on this link to assign to different students. And so what you can do is actually untick students there that you don't want to assign a task to. So you can actually set different tasks for different students, which is really helpful for differentiation. Then you can see in the what section, this has come up with that lesson that I was in the content library, and I can click on add more content, and I can actually go in and add the rest of the lessons for that unit if I want to. So the content has been designed so that it's a bit like a menu, so you can pick and choose what you want to assign to to your class. So you don't have to assign all of this. You might just assign the listening, reading, and the writing, or you might just assign the grammar. It's really up to you. Or you can, of course, assign the whole lot. So then you click on Confirm Selection once you've chosen what you want to assign. You can then rename your task. So if you wanted to call it something like Year 7 Week 1 or something like that, and then you can choose the dates, and you can click on there, and the default is for a week, but you can change it to whatever dates you want. We also have the feature called the live feed, which monitors what the students are doing, so you can actually track what they're up to on their computers as well. And we also have this game called Dash, which is great. And what happens is when the students finish each smart lesson, it unlocks Dash, and what Dash does is it recycles questions from the lesson in a more competitive environment. So I'm actually going to show you a short video clip of what Dash looks like. It's quite good to sort of get the student perspective again, and I'll just stop talking for a couple of seconds, and you can have a wee look at what it looks like. And the students love Dash. They find it really motivating. They get really into it, and yes, so you can have a wee look at what Dash looks like in this video. So I'll stop it there, but basically the students, if there's more than one from a class online, they can compete against each other. Otherwise, they compete against others who they have no idea who they are, but they're competing along the top. They've got these little rockets, and they're kind of competing against each other to answer the questions as fast as possible. And students love it, and it's a great way of motivating them to finish the lesson, but also a really wonderful way to sort of recycle all the language they've learnt in the particular unit. So I'm going to just flick back the the link where you can sign up for access if you need to do so, and I'm going to go back into screen share, so you should be able to see my screen now. So that's actually, and then we have a few optional settings, and then you can assign the task. So that's how you assign a task, and we do recommend doing that because it it really makes it easier for the students to find it and easier for you to track. I'm going to show you now how you can access what the students have done and how you can give them feedback and use the data to really inform your teaching and to be able to help your students as much as possible from this data. So I'm going to go to check up on what the students have done. All you need to do is click on the task and homework button from the control panel, and it will bring up all the tasks that you've set. And you can, if the students have been working on this, you can click on these little panels and see what they've done. I'm going to show you a sample report, and this will show you what you'll see once they've started working on it. So you get a bit of an overview of whether they've completed work, whether they're still haven't started, whether they've almost finished, and that kind of thing. You get some general insights into the students' progress. You then get a breakdown of each section of the lesson and whether if it's green, then that means that the students have completed it. If there's an exclamation mark, it means they're having difficulty with it. So this is a great place to kind of check in whether your students are struggling with something as a particular concept or a particular skill, and you can actually pick up on that. And once again, I think this is great for a sort of traditional learning environment, but also for a remote learning or a blended learning environment where you aren't seeing the students all the time, and you can actually say, okay, well, these two students are struggling with this. I might just say, give them a call or send them an email or set up a wee video conference for anyone who's struggling with this particular concept, and we can go through it. Or if you're in that, blended learning where you might have students rostered in and out and doing some online work from home, you can use that class time to really pick up on areas where they might be struggling. But of course, even in our traditional classroom, it's really great if you've got students working on it and you're seeing them every day. You can still make the most of this data and really use it to inform your teaching and next steps and how you're helping individual students. You can then get more in-depth analysis of how they're going in each of the questions. You can see the mistakes that are coming up in each of the questions. But my favourite part of this is actually the feedback part, where you can see what students have written and what they've recorded, and you can actually give feedback. So this is a writing task. So if I click on this one, it comes up with a list of students down the left-hand side. You can see what they've written here, and then over on the right-hand side, you can either give them written feedback or recorded feedback. And so I think it's a great way of keeping track of what they're doing. I think if you've got students working remotely, the recorded feedback adds that really nice personal touch. I know I've read a lot of teachers online from around the world and social media have been talking about how recorded feedback has been really helpful for students, and just to get that personal touch. But of course, written feedback is really valuable as well. I know I had the pleasure of interviewing someone last year who's done a PhD in feedback, and was doing a PhD in feedback, and her research showed also great to differentiate the kinds of feedback you give. So some students prefer written feedback, some prefer recorded feedback. So lots of options there, but just a really great way to sort of keep track of writing and speaking. So that's the writing. If I go back out here, you can see it comes up with some speaking there as well. So if I click on that, then you can listen to what the students have recorded and give them feedback on their recordings as well. You can even open the file and download it by clicking on those three dots and download, so it's downloadable as well. I do have a video of a teacher, one of our teachers from Australia, talking about how he uses the feedback tool alongside speaking. But I'm going to show you that at the end, just for time's sake, and I'll show you that while I'm going through some of the Q&A at the end, just to kind of hear a bit of a case study about how teachers are using the platform. So that's the feedback side of it, and I think definitely for me it's such a wonderful side of our platform, and just to have everything in one place. I know when I was teaching, I was really lucky to be teaching at a school where students had great access to devices, and they do all these wonderful things in languages, both written and recorded and spoken, but just keeping track of them became a real nightmare when they had them all over the show on various folders and files, and they struggled to keep track of them really. So this, with EP and using the writing and speaking questions, you can actually just have them all in one place with the feedback alongside that. So moving on, we've talked about how to set a task, how to track progress, how to give feedback. We also have a really comprehensive assessment side of the platform, and you can see this can be accessed from our control panel, this assessments panel here. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about assessments in the session tonight, but as I said, we will be running some follow-up sessions with Joe, and one of them will focus on assessments. But what I wanted to do is just give you a little taster of what the assessment platform is like. And I mean, I think some people sort of get quite nervous about the idea of online assessment and how it can be monitored and the security, which is fair enough. It is a scary thought, but this video shows you our security features. So when a student, you can choose what we call full screen monitoring mode, and when a student enters an assessment task, it takes them into a full screen view in their computer, and if they try and exit out of that, they get this big red warning saying you're exiting full screen monitoring mode. And as on the teacher end, you can actually track that. So this video that I'm going to show you, it's a really short video. It just shows you from the teacher perspective and then the student perspective when you're running an assessment. So hopefully that will start in a couple of seconds. There's no sound on the video, so you just see the screen. So this is what you can see there is the student completing the assessment, and then shortly they're going to try and go out of that full screen mode, whatever that is to do, to go into Google Translate or to look on another site, and then you see they get that warning screen. So this teacher's perspective, this shows you what the teacher sees. They get a monitoring area where you can see updates on what the students are doing, and if they leave that full screen, you can see it updating in real time there, and then you can stop their assessment. So that's what our assessment security features look like. And as I said, we will be we'll run a follow-up session on assessment hopefully in a few weeks' time, but so look out for information about that. So moving on, I thought it would be great to sort of finish with looking at how different ways in which you can use EP languages as a tool that sort of can be used seamlessly between a traditional setting, a blended learning environment, and a remote learning setting. Because I think as this year and next year continues, we really don't know what's in store for us. We may see changes to our situation with schools coming in and out of periods of school closures. And I think EP will enable you to keep your classroom program running regardless of the situation, and provide a constant tool that's really flexible and can be used in all of those various situations. So in a traditional classroom, or a normal, whatever normal means now, really, it's really changed a lot. But so there's lots of ways that teachers use EP languages. So EP topic-based units cover all the skills, as we've seen: reading, writing, listening, speaking. So many teachers actually use our units as a full textbook replacement. Alternatively, you can also use our content alongside your textbook and choose our relevant units to go alongside the units that you're doing with the textbook. A lot of our lessons can also be used on a projector with the whole class. So you might have the introduction lessons, our listening lessons, our reading lessons, and our grammar used together with the whole class, either for the whole lesson, like going through the whole EP lesson on the projector, or you might just do the start of the lesson and get the students to work independently for the for the second bit. Both the reading and listening activities can be used for reading out loud activities, and you saw that we have the listening transcripts available in our teacher guide. At higher levels, the reading and listening comprehension texts work really well, and you can act as a kind of whole lesson generator. So you can use the text as a starting point and then get students discussing them. You can talk about the vocabulary in the text. Students can share their opinions, even have a debate based on the topic of the text, and write their own similar texts. EP also works really well as part of rotation, so stations around the classroom. So if you're working on a unit and you've got a whole lot of different activities that they can rotate around, EP fits really well into that kind of rotation format. And this is a great option if you've got limited access to devices in the classroom. Some teachers may have like an EP lesson a week where they just do EP for one lesson. That's how some teachers kind of set it up. And you can use this class time for small group and one-on-one conversations with the students while students are working independently on EP. You can also use questions in our EP languages lessons for more traditional language learning games such as Terminator, speed dating, running to the front of the room, those kind of things, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. And you can either read out the questions or project them, or you can have a student with their device asking the questions and speed dating. So all sorts of variations on games as well. Finally, of course, you can use EP for homework as well, and it just provides really powerful data, and you can track what the students have done and use it to inform your planning. So in a blended learning situation, so there's lots of different interpretations of blended learning, and basically blended learning is anything where you're using a combination of online teaching and traditional methods. But I think when I'm thinking blended learning at the moment, what comes to mind is schools around the world where you might be rostered in and out. So doing some online learning from home and some learning in class time to minimize the numbers in classrooms. And I know that's the case for a number of countries in various places. So of course, students in this kind of situation can complete EP activities outside of class time for that comprehensive skill coverage, which means you can use in class time for more interactive activities and further explanation of key concepts. You can also use the data from EP homework tasks to really use class time effectively and follow up on areas where students might need extra help with one-on-one learning conversations or differentiated group activities.
Philippa, sorry for interrupting, but a couple of people are saying they can only see a black screen in the audience view. Is there anything you could do about that?
That's strange. They should be able to see. There's nothing on my screen here. It's just a slide that says how can EP languages be used in different learning situations. What I can do is turn on my camera. That's probably why you can see the black screen, because I turned off my camera, perhaps. So there's nothing on my screen here now, just in this section, just talking through the different strategies. Of course, as well, in that blended learning situation, you can run assessments through EP. So still making sure you can maximize the use of the class time, and then running assessments. They can do assessments outside of class time, so you're not having to use up that valuable in-class time for assessments. And look out, as I said, look out for our next webinar on running assessments through the platform. And then if you've got students coming back to school after a period of school closure, which is going to be the case for many people around the world at various times, EP is also great for seeing where students are at. So everyone, all students, I'm sure, are going to have had a different experience of remote learning. Some will have done a lot of work, some may not have. So EP is a great tool for kind of gathering data on where they're at, seeing what they still need to cover, what they know already, and then setting differentiated learning pathways according to that. And finally, in a full remote learning environment, a lot of the things I've talked about can be done through Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts. You can use the introduction lessons for introducing new vocabulary. I've talked to a couple of teachers lately who've said it's worked really well running through listening lessons, doing a couple of activities on Zoom or on your video call, and get the class doing them together, and then you send them off to do them independently. You could also get your students to complete an EP lesson, perhaps one of the introduction lessons, before attending a Zoom session or following a Zoom session, so either a pre or a post task. The speaking activities can be easily completed independently at home by students, and of course they get that instant feedback on pronunciation as well as valuable teacher feedback on the longer tasks. You could also run through the pronunciation questions together as a class, going through how they work. And of course, the tracking is fantastic for remote learning. You can see exactly what your students have been doing and the feedback capabilities that we've already talked about. An EP lesson is a great addition to like a choice board. So that might be, I think choice boards are a great way of setting up remote learning as well. So just having an EP lesson on a choice board works perfectly too. And we also have a series of remote learning tasks in the content library. So I'll just go back into screen share quickly and show you these. So you can find these in the content library. And they, depending on the template that your school's set up with, they'll either be up in the featured content area. You can see here, I've got remote learning tasks, or you'll find them down at the bottom here in the EP content area. So these are just a series of tasks that we've come up with, and they're just little tasks students can do around the home using their target language. So for example, daily activities pictures. You go in here, take a series of pictures of you and your family doing different daily activities around the home, write a caption for each picture in the language you're learning, and upload your document in the space below. So they all involve uploading something, whether it's a video or an image or a sound file, and they're just little tasks that students can do around the home using the target language. And we've got them at beginner / intermediate, and then intermediate / advanced. So that's something you could add to your repertoire of remote learning activities. And of course, you can keep doing assessments during remote learning using EP as well. And what I'll do is we've put together a summary of all those different ways of using EP across those different settings. So we'll send out the summary with the recording of the webinar in 24 hours, so you'll be able to access that. And I'm also going to post that summary of activities in our Facebook group, which I mentioned at the start. So if you haven't joined that already, it'd be great to jump in and join the Facebook group too. So I think that sort of covers the main things I was hoping to cover in the webinar. Oh yes, the final thing I was going to talk about is very quickly getting students set up. So really important if you don't have classes set up, and just some of our upcoming events. So to get students set up, if you don't have classes already on the system, all you need to do is go to our control panel, and then you'll see in this little white box on the left-hand side, we've got an upload class lists link that you can click, and then this comes up with our enrolment portal, and you just follow the instructions here. If you select either the priority upload or the standard upload, the priority upload, your class list format just has to follow a more set template, and then the standard upload, you can have a more flexible class list format. It just might take a little bit more time, but not really a lot more time. And if you click on select, it will tell you the format and all the information that we need there. And all you need to do is pick the files from your computer or drag and drop them into this space. But what I'll do as well is, with the webinar recording that we send out, we'll send a link to a help doc on how you can upload your class lists as well. And if you do ever have any questions, you're welcome just to either click on that support button that you can see in the control panel, and that will take you through to our customer support team, or you can email support@educationperfect.com. Finally, I thought I'd just sort of give you a run through of some of our EP events coming up. So we of course have our World Series, which is all our languages, we've got our Languages Champs, which has already taken place this year. Our Science Champs has actually just launched today. So if you've got science teacher colleagues that's not too late to sign up, tell them to get their class lists in for that. We have just had our regional champs for Australia and New Zealand, which is great. We've got our Northern Hemisphere champs coming up, and Dia will actually be able to confirm the dates for the Northern champs. I'm not 100% sure if we've confirmed them yet, but I'm just going to ask Dia if she can send me a message with the dates, and we can just, if we have confirmed them. I can't remember off the top of my head. But also what's really exciting is in term for we have got our video competition coming up, and this is something we've run for the last 2 years in Australia and New Zealand, but we're running it for the first time in the Northern Hemisphere this year, and it's basically a video challenge. So students, and it's for up to year 10, so students submit a video based on the topic of my world, so it's very, very broad, and they make a video in the language, and it can be any kind of video. It could be animated, it could be real live acting, it could be with like a photo story, and then they submit it through EP. So that's coming up in term 4, and there will be more correspondence around that very soon. And Dia's just confirmed, getting my words jumbled, far too much talking from me, that the Northern Champs is from the 4th to the 11th of November. So thanks for that, Dia. So that's coming up for our Northern Hemisphere schools later in the year. So that's what you can look out for. Hopefully you've learnt something in the session today. that does bring it to an end. If you do have questions, I know that Dia has been doing an amazing job in the Q&A, and I'm going to jump in there now and help out with any questions that still need answering. And what I'm going to do while I'm doing that is play the video from one of our teachers, Dave Dunn, who recorded this great video looking at how he uses EP for giving feedback on his students speaking. So I'm going to play that now, and I'm going to jump into the Q&A. I'll turn off my camera again and try and answer some of those questions in there as well. So I'll start that video now.
Hello everybody, my name's Dave Dunn and I'm a teacher in Coffs Harbour on the beautiful mid-north coast of New South Wales, where I teach Chinese and Spanish. I've been using Education Perfect for about 6 years now, and I have to say I love the platform. There's so many things I love about it. The content's always being improved, it's getting better all the time, there's new layers of functionality constantly being added. But there's one thing in particular which I like about it, which I thought I'd share today, and that's the feedback feature. So as a language teacher, I'm often setting my kids work to do using Education Perfect, where they're either recording themselves speaking in language, or either responding to a stimulus or giving me some kind of spoken response, or they're giving me something that they've written in language. Now, if they're recording themselves speak, I like that for a couple of reasons. It means that it's good for those kids who are a little bit shy speaking in class in front of their peers. It gives them a safe way of doing that, so I can often get more language out of the shy kids. And just by having them record themselves, it means that I can take the time to give people really individualised feedback, which in senior language courses, when they're preparing for their HSC oral exam, is something which is quite important. And it's that feedback feature that I love about EP, and I like it for two reasons. One is because it can be very quick, but yet still quite detailed. So you've got your star system there, where you can just give kids between 1 and 5 stars, depending on the quality of their response, and that's a very simple system. But if you've got some really clear kind of success criteria that you set up with the kids before they do their task, and even though it's very quick, you can still give them quite relevant feedback. And personalised to the answer they've given you. But probably the aspect of the feedback which I like the best is being able to record myself giving them feedback about a response that they've given. And the reason I like that as a language teacher is because I can really drill down and give them quite specific feedback on their pronunciation. So if they've done something well, I can say that. But if they've got a particular word that they've pronounced poorly, then I can let them know what that should sound like within my response to their response. So they're getting that feedback, having just they can re-listen to what they've said. Then they can immediately hear me saying, "Okay, this is what you said. This is what it needs to sound like." And I think that's powerful, because it means that I can really drill down and give them really personalised feedback based on what they've heard, and I can re-listen to their recording as many times as I need to, and then give them something back which is very useful to them. And I think that's just a really powerful feature, and that's one of the reasons that I love Education Perfect, one among many.
Wow,
so that
fantastic webinar. Sorry, Philippa, go on.
No, I was just going to say that was our amazing Dave Dunn in New South Wales. So, yes, sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine, no problem at all. No, it's been absolutely amazing, as it was yesterday as well. Thank you so much for going through the chat. I think that's a really, really nice idea of playing a video while you're answering the questions in the chat. That's definitely something I can take away for other webinars. That's amazing. So we've got quite a few questions which I've copied and pasted onto a Google Doc. If we can maybe look at some of those questions now, if that's okay. But that was a great job. That was awesome. So there's quite a few very detailed questions. I think what you were saying earlier about there's obviously some very experienced users here, which is brilliant. So I think these are all the questions which haven't been answered yet, but let's see. If they have been answered, apologies. So a teacher has written, I'm a first-year teacher and a lot of my students are not able to read Japanese, hiragana, katakana, or kanji. I like that the beginner languages in action has Romaji, but I find it time-consuming adding Romaji to the intermediate advanced ones. Can Romaji be added to those ones in an easier way?
That's
quite a detailed question, isn't it?
At the moment, yeah, that's a good question. It will be a matter. It's not something that's sort of on our project list. I can definitely pass it on as a request, but I can't promise when we'll be able to do it. But it will just be a matter of using our EP Studio tools to do that in the meantime. So we'd be happy to run through a PD on how to do that if needed. So just reach out to us and get in touch. But yeah, I don't know if I stress this fact, but any of our existing content can be customized and for that kind of purpose. So for adding in target language instructions where we don't have immersion, for adding in Romaji, that kind of thing. So so unfortunately we don't have Romaji for intermediate and advanced, but I think EP Studio would be my best advice there, and I can add it to our list of requested projects. And basically the way that we kind of the way we make decisions around future projects is we take on teacher feedback all the time, and we then kind of look at what's got the most requests and we go from there.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, obviously, you've got like a bank of materials that people can access, but you can't have like every single language in the world and every single level in the world. That's not feasible. But if people want to make their own content, for example, for Hindi or for Greek or what have you that we've had in the Q&A, then they can use the EP Studio content creation, can't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, totally. Yes.
Lovely. So we've got another detailed question for you. So this person has said, I'm a keen user of EP and do find that the live tracking of what students are doing is a bit too detailed sometimes. Info such as X lost track for 5 seconds is a bit much. Can we adjust this at all?
Unfortunately, not that I'm aware of, but we can certainly pass that on as feedback to our product development team as something they could look at. But I don't think it's adjustable at this stage, unfortunately. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think it's great to have that sort of granular content, the fact you can really drill down. But obviously for that teacher's finding that's a bit too much. But that's fine. Great. I can see actually a couple of questions have just come in now. Can I use the content library from another language? Could you clarify that, Philippa, please?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Is that I'm assuming that means can you use content from another language and then transfer it over and edit it? Is that correct? At the moment, yeah. I think that's what you're asking. At the moment, you'd have to do that through the EP team. I think we would have to transfer that over for you. It is possible, but you just have to get in touch and ask us to do that. It's not possible from the teacher end, if that makes sense.
And someone mentioned about the fact that the team gives amazing support, so that's really great. And whenever I've worked with EP, I've found the same as well. So that's fantastic. Okay, lovely. Okay, the question which always comes up, is the service free for teachers to use in lessons, for example? Could you maybe clarify how that works, please?
Yes. Yep, sure. So it is, as I said, the teacher accounts are free. So you can use these resources on the projector. You could have the listening and reading comprehension projected on the board or through Teams or Zoom or Google Meets and that kind of thing. But if you want your students working on EP, and obviously that's where you get the most benefit of students are working on a device and you're being able to track their progress and their data, then the students do need to pay for an account. But we do offer a free trial, so there's a 30-day free trial for anyone in the webinar today, and all you need to do is fill out that link which I had up. I'll just pop that back up. The free trial, the sign up for access, that will set up your free teacher account, and that will stay free. And then you just need to get in touch with us about setting up classes. And if you are interested in signing on classes and how much that costs, what we'll do is one of our community leaders will be in touch with you regarding pricing packages following getting your account set up, and the prices vary widely based on factors including numbers of subjects, students, age range, and that kind of thing. So that's why we prefer for one of our community leaders to sort of get in touch and find out a bit more about your school.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I noticed. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I noticed in the chat as well that there was a question about data protection with signing up with classes. I know that you answered that, but would it be possible for you to give the answer for everyone to hear as well, if that's
Sure.
okay?
So yeah, if you do have any questions about data protection and privacy, I think we've put on our resources on the left-hand side a link to that. I think that should be there. If it's not, let me know and I can pop it out to everyone as well in the email. That's got all the information about our data protection and privacy things, and it's also got an email address on there that you can email with any specific questions to our data experts.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's lovely. Fantastic. I know that's a big issue, particularly in the UK for teachers. Yes. I'm sure around the world as well, but I know particularly in the UK with the whole GDPR and what have you. Brilliant. So another question around Chinese script. Will you be developing a writing module where students write in Chinese script rather than typing in pinyin? Is that possible at the moment? Pinyin, I mean, sorry.
Yes, yep. So when for students to write in script, so I'm assuming that the teacher's meaning like actually drawing the characters rather than writing on their keyboard.
I presume so. Yeah.
At the moment, the best option is that I think would work is within our pre-built writing lessons. It's all done on typing, but what you could do is edit our pre-built writing questions and add in our uploading component. And what that would allow people to do, what students to do, is actually to draw the character on their page, take a photo of it, and so they could write their whole paragraph or essay in characters, take a picture of it and upload it. So that would just involve a little bit of editing to the question. I think that's the best option we can offer at the moment. And I think if you are keen to learn how to do that, I'm happy to jump on a call. I could jump on a Zoom call with you and show you some instructions on how to do that. But it's actually very easy now with EP Studio to do that kind of thing.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much. I see a question has just come in.
I'm not sure who asked that question, but please reach out to me. Send me an email. I think my email is linked in on the left-hand side. So send me a message and I can give you the instructions on how to do that.
Lovely. That's fantastic. So we've got a question that's just come in. Can we find EP classes for students with special needs, e.g. dyslexia, etc.? So are there particular features in EP which cater to children with dyslexia, for example? Oh, I see that Dia is actually answering that right now.
Dia's probably got a great answer for that. I'll let Dia answer, but there are a number of different features within the platform that can help. We do have our text-to-speech function. That's great for other subjects, but it doesn't work in languages because it can't handle having two languages on a slide. So unfortunately, that's not for languages, but for other subjects, it's really great. I'll see what Dia is going to pop in there, and I'm sure she's going to give some great suggestions for that question.
Just on that point as well, I think someone was asking about adding accented letters. Is there like a featured toolbar, or is that down to the individual users using their keyboard?
Yeah, so what happens with accents is the way our content is set up when students write, if it's French or Spanish, the language is set to that language, or a character language as well. And so when they type, if it comes up, say, with a letter that might have an accent on it, it will come up with a little toolbar that they can select the accent from. So they don't need to worry about shortcuts. That when you're creating content, if there's teachers out there who are already creating their own content, and we cover this in our EP Studio webinars, but you just have to set the language that the students are going to be writing in, and then that will happen as well. So, but it is something that's easy to forget when you're creating your own content to set the language. So it's just that can be a problem that many people come across, but it's easily fixed by just switching the language setting.
Yeah, that's excellent. That sounds really useful. Thank you. That's great.
No problem.
Another question. Thank you. Another question is around recording. So a teacher's written, I would like to record my pronunciation about fruit in Vietnamese. for a vocabulary list, but the sound recording feature wasn't working. Is that just probably a question of enabling the microphone and refreshing the page, I'd have thought, probably?
Yes, so it probably depends what kind of question you're wanting to make. Once again, I think either if you're creating your own content, I'd recommend joining one of our EP Studio webinars, or reach out to me and I'm happy to set up a call with you and talk you through it. But when you create voice recording questions, you've got two. If I've understood the question correctly, if you're trying to set up a pronunciation question where you've got a model answer, when you create a speaking question, there's two types of speaking questions. One is a shorter answer that has a model answer. One is a longer one that doesn't. If you click on the shorter one, it will come up with a space for you to then record the model answer. But definitely, I can reach out to you if you send me an email. I can make a time to just give you a quick Zoom call, or sign up for one of our EP Studio webinars.
That's excellent. I can see that Catherine, who asked the question around accents, is actually clarifying what she meant, which is it's when the teacher is making up assessments that the accents don't come up. Is that the issue?
Right, sure. Okay, yeah, so that's also a common issue that we have, that teachers find. So what should happen when you create content in the platform is that you should be able to use the same way of writing accents as you would normally elsewhere on a computer. So, for example, I've got a Mac and I just use the same shortcuts that I use in any kind of document. But it has been passed on to our development team that it will be great to have a toggle feature that teachers could select if they're wanting to type in a language to generate the accents more easily, because I know a lot of teachers do have difficulty with that. So it's on our list of hopefully things that will be developed in the near future.
Awesome, that's great. Thank you.
But hopefully you can just use the normal tools that you'd use when typing with accents.
Lovely, thank you. So we've got another question here. This is what the person has written. Why can't we assign both translation lists and smart lessons together? I've had this problem several times, thank you.
Why can't you assign why can't you assign a task with vocab lists and smart lessons? Unfortunately, you just can't. I don't have a good reason why. It's a development feature. It's just to do with the way that they're stored in the system. The only way around it is if you build a smart lesson, you can actually include a translation list in it. But then that's potentially not what you want. If you want them to be separate and not sort of combined into one, then unfortunately it has to be two separate tasks. It's to do with the way they're stored in our system, I believe. I've just seen Diaz said, could we answer this question? In the listening activities, do you have regional accents for French and Spanish, or speakers not from France or Spain? Thanks. So great question. For Spanish, we aim to have a whole variety of different accents. So currently we have actually two instructional designers for Spanish. We have someone from Chile and someone from Spain. But we also get in all different people for our voice recordings. So we've had Mexican Spanish, we've had Colombian Spanish. So we try and incorporate lots of different accents. For French, we tend to have, we've had some fairly steady French recorders who are from France, but we do, when we actually now have a New Caledonian native French speaker on our team, so we can vary that up a little bit. So we do try to have variation, but it's always a native speaker. Hopefully that answers that question.
Fantastic. I mean, I don't know how much time you have for questions. I'm more than happy to carry on asking the questions if you're happy.
I can keep going. Yeah, I can keep going.
Yeah.
If they keep
okay?
coming. Yep.
Okay, so we've got another couple of questions around sort of content. So Toya Adams has said, do EP have content for supported learners? I'm not exactly sure what is meant by supported learners. Maybe that's an Australasian term. Does that mean like looked after children? Is that what that means, supported learners? Or is that new to you as well, Philippa?
I'm assuming it means maybe perhaps students with learning difficulties, perhaps. I'm not sure. But we do have a number of features within. We don't have specific content for learners with learning needs, but we do have a number of features within the platform. So, for example, when you set a task, you can turn off the timer. We have the text to speech, that's available for other subjects, not for languages, unfortunately. We've got the ability for a teacher to sort of add in their own recording to personalize it a little bit and to simplify it. Of course, you can edit the content to make it simplified for particular learning needs, or to make it suitable for particular learning needs. Like I know sometimes colors can impact various learning requirements, so that kind of thing. And also with assessments, of course, you can also turn off the timers. You can allow multiple attempts for assessments. You can set different assessments for different students, or different tasks for different students. Like I know I've been in classrooms where the teacher has said, that student's working on something, they've got different needs to the rest of the class, they're working on something completely different, but they actually don't know, no one knows that people are working on different content. It's differentiation without people even realizing, so they don't know that they've got a different simplified task or whatever. So there's not sort of different content for people with learning needs, but there's lots of features within the platform to assist those learners, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I can see from Toya's response as well that that's exactly what she meant. So that's great to explain some of the accessibility features that you have. That's absolutely perfect. That's great. Anne has asked the question, are you considering doing something for younger students? So who would you say is the sort of the core audience? Is it secondary as well as primary, or mainly secondary?
Yeah,
what would you say?
We have for younger students, and I didn't really touch on this because there was so much to get through, but we have our Getting Started course. So I'm just going to jump back into screen share. I'll turn off my video. I think that makes it easier to see. And when we have our Getting Started course across all of the languages where we're developing content, and the way this is set up, I'll show you a different language. Actually, we might look at let's look at Arabic, just to have a different language. So the way this is set up is the units are broken down into lots of really small chunks. So rather than just having greetings and introductions all together with all the listening for the topic, we have it's broken down. So we have greetings, and we have the vocab, and we have a lot of images throughout these units. And then lots of repetition, really basic questions, and then it's designed for sort of early primary to late primary. And I know, for example, I've got a 7-year-old daughter, and she's quite happily can work through a Getting Started lesson for French. So it's designed for that. Yeah, so definitely for primary learners. It depends what you mean by younger students. We don't offer anything for very early primary, so say year 1 and 2, the students do need to be able to read in English to be able to access our content. But I definitely recommend our Getting Started course for early learners, and I think we recommend it from year 3 onwards, basically. A good one to look at is our Getting Started in Italian. That's one we've literally just released about maybe 2 weeks ago. And so you can see here the units, they've got lots of colour, lots of images, lots of questions breaking down the vocab, and really simple activities and questions. So it's not too overwhelming for the younger students.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. So that's really useful to know that there is content there for upper primary students. That's fantastic. Thank you. I think a lot of the other questions that I can see are around assessment, which I know we're going to be covering in another session. But we've got a question here. It says, please, if you upload a lesson, hang on, yeah, please do. Yeah, I think it's asking whether you can download other people's lesson plans. I think that's what it means. But presumably, if someone shares their content in the content library, then anybody can then access that. I don't know if it can be downloaded, but you can certainly access it and put it in your own content library. But obviously, everything that you make, you can it's set to private by default. But if you want to share it, you can as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so anything you make is private, but then, yes, if you choose to share it, then it's public. It doesn't appear in everyone's content library, but it's searchable. So they can, if you search for, say, holidays in French, and someone else has made a lesson on holidays and shared it, then it will come up in the search, if that makes sense. So, but if you don't share it, you've got to right click and share to public. If you don't do that, then it won't be available to anyone else. I've
That's
just seen a
fantastic.
question here about IB
Yep.
content, which I might just address for anyone who's still on. I'm not sure how many people we've still got online with us. So we've still got about 100 people online, which is wonderful. So when the question was, when I've asked about IB, and this is from Natalie, when I've asked about IB content before, you were told that we couldn't share it because we didn't have an agreement with them. Is this something new? So what the situation is with IB is we don't create content specifically for IB, and we don't have the rights to do that. But what we've done is we've organised our content in terms of the themes of IB. So we've created what we've called an IB topic index, where we've just reorganised our languages content in those themes. And so I can show you where that is in the content library for any IB teachers. And you may not have it set up in your content library. If you don't, you just need to request it. So send an email through to our support email address and just say, could I be set up with the IB resources, and we'll set you up with the right template. So when it's set up, you'll see, and it's not there for every language, but for many of our languages, we do have this IB topic index, and we've got the IB themes there, where we've just got our existing content organised according to those themes. So it's not content that's been specifically written for IB, but it's really good, still good practice. And we do have a number of teachers using EP to help prepare students for IB. What I can do as well is I've got a help guide looking specifically at IB, and it's also got some case studies on it, so I can share that with Natalie and anyone else who might be interested. Just send me an email and I can share that help guide with you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I think we're sort of coming to the end now. I think everything else is really about assessment and feedback, which we can cover in another webinar. Just another couple of questions, if it's okay. So one question is there a limit to the size of video files that students can upload? So a technical question.
Yes, I think I may have answered that directly in the chat, but it is 400 megabytes, I believe.
Okay.
Did you say videos?
That's generous. Yeah, videos, yeah.
Yeah. So if the students are uploading videos, it's 400 megabytes.
Okay, fantastic. And then I know you talked about the events coming up, but someone's asked, do you put out a yearly calendar so we can schedule events in?
Yep. So I think I've answered that question as well, but just for anyone else who's interested,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. We do generally send out an email. We sent one out at the end of last year with all the events for this year, but it's possible people don't always see our emails that come through. I know I'm, guilty of not always reading every single email, especially if you've missed that, what we do is we always advertise our events in our subject newsletters. So every month, we've started this year our subject newsletters, which come out monthly, and they always advertise the events that are coming up. So look out for those. We also advertise in our news feed, which is something that you'll see on when you log into EP, or just go back to the home screen. The news feed comes up just in the front. It comes up with all the sort of latest things happening, our latest content releases, all of our events. So check out the newsfeed as well. Plus look out for those subject newsletters. And we generally send out emails as well, leading up to events too.
Perfect. That's excellent. Sorry.
No, that's all I was going to say.
Okay, sorry. And then just to finish off with, we've got a question. If I edit the content shared by another teacher, does that mean the content is changed for that teacher forever? But I presume it's just that if you edit someone else's content, you're basically making a copy of that content. You're not actually directly editing their original. Yeah,
so you definitely wouldn't edit the original. What will happen is you make a copy and then you edit the copy, and that's the same if you edit our content. You make a copy of our EP content and then you edit the copy. So don't worry, you won't edit someone else's content. I've also just seen a question that I think that we haven't answered yet. Could students record a dialogue if they were in a breakout room together in Zoom? That's a really good question, and I don't actually know the answer to it. I'll have to try it and see if that would work. And I'll give it a go tomorrow if I can, and get back to you on that one. But it's a really good idea, and it could possibly work really well. But I'll test it out, and I'll get back to you.
Just in relation to that, I know that we covered this in yesterday's webinar about the integration. So we had the question about whether Google Classroom is integrated, which I know it is. But someone in the chat asked about Schoology, which I know is one of the tools which is integrated. But if you were using, say, Microsoft Teams, you would take the link, wouldn't you, and then share that? Could you maybe just demonstrate that live now? Would that be possible on how to access sharing links?
Yeah, so what happens is when you're in the content library you go into a lesson, we have a direct integration with Google Classroom. So if you click, say I'm in this introduction, days of the week and birthdays lesson, I click on more and I can then go share to Google Classroom, and that will share it directly to Google Classroom. You can also get a link for students to put on other platforms, and you can just copy that link and put it into any platform and it should work as long as the students have got an account. It won't work if they don't have an account. We do also have integrations with Brightspace, Moodle, Schoology, Canvas, Schoolbox, and Firefly, and if anyone needs specific information about those, we've got some documents that we can send out to you. So yeah, just get in touch with our support team would be the best thing for that, rather than getting in touch with me, because they can sort of set you up with the right people to help with that.
Wow, amazing. Well, I think we should draw the session to an end now. It's been amazing. Thank you so much, Philippa. You're such an oracle of information about EP. It's just been wonderful, and I can see from all the questions, everyone's very happy with the presentation. So that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing all your expertise, and I'm very much looking forward to future collaborations. We'll let everyone know about the dates once we've agreed on them for the next few on assessment and feedback and content creation. That'll be fantastic. But thank you so much. It's been a really interesting session. It's been brilliant.
Great. Well, thank you, Joe, and thank you so much for working with us and to reaching out to us to run this webinar. It's been absolutely wonderful. And thank you to everyone for joining us this afternoon or this evening or this morning, depending on where you are in the world. It's been wonderful to have you here, and I hope you've all learned something new about the platform. And I've just got that link up there where you can still register for your account if you don't have one. And finally, a big thank you to Dia as well, who's been answering all those questions in the chat. She's done an amazing job. And thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of the evening, afternoon, or day, depending on where you are. And keep in touch and tweet about us if you haven't done so already. Join our Facebook group, and we look forward to having you in the EP community if you're new. And it's great to have you with us if you've been around. And we love all of our teachers. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.